Welcome students, welcome to the channel. In this video we will see the development of modern Indian education in British time period from 1680 to 1947. So let's start. First one is the 1813 Charter Act. The East India Company Act 1813, also known as the Charter Act of 1813, and it was an act of parliament of United Kingdom. Earlier this charter act Earlier, the Charter Act of 1793 had given the East India Company a monopoly to trade with the East for a period of 20 years. This Charter Act of 1830 ended this monopoly of East India Company in India, except the company's monopoly in trade with China and trade in tea with India was kept intact. If we see the educational implication or educational perspective of this Charter Act, so we can say the implication of this Charter Act in Indian education was immense, and it is the turning point of the history of Indian education. It laid foundation stone of modern Indian education and influenced the future education development in India. So let's see what are the main topics of this charter. The first implication of this charter says that now the company has to take the educational responsibilities, and in this context East India Company have to spend 1 lakh rupees each year in education system in India, which brings a good positive vibe for the Indian education. Secondly, the clause 43 of this act mainly focus on the education system of India, which brings the revival or improvement of the literature, and it encourages the learned natives of the Indian society, and it brings come into the focus many learned people which belongs to India. And next, it promotes the knowledge of science among the inhabitants of the country, which means now East India Company put focus on the science subject. And if we see the previous time period, in the Vedic time period, the prince or the Kshatriya soldiers get a special chance to read science so that they can properly manage their administrative things. Now again, in this time period, science was come into focus, and they put more emphasis on the learning of a science, and this time period was considered the best development time period for the Indian education. Let's move further. A system of education grants was initiated, which means now every educational institution have to do better in order to get more amount for the development. Second, now there is a state system was started for the education scenario. Side by side, the private enterprises missionaries were also allowed to functions. So private enterprises at that time period was called missionaries. Next, this act provide missionaries land in India and establish modern English schools and laid a foundation to all well organized modern education system. As the shores of India were thrown open to the missionaries, they provide into India not only from England but also from the other parts of the country, mainly from the Germany, America and Scotland. And next, this charter created an era of controversies in context of educational aims, in context of content of education or the medium of education or the agencies of education, because it was the first time that everything was newly started. So many point of views, many thoughts come up with new things. So that's why it was called the era of controversies. Next was the Lord Macaulay's Minute of 1835, Thomas B Macaulay, who was regarded as an architect of the system of education in India during British rule. and he was a great essayist, historian, linguistic, orator, politician, or a thinker. So we can say he was a multi-talented person, and he come up in India in 1838 as a law member of executive council of the governor general, and later he was also appointed as a president of the general committee on public instruction by the governor general Lord William Bentinck. So he wrote his minute on 2 Feb 1835, in which he intensely criticized almost everything of India, like astronomy, Indian culture, history, philosophy, religion, everything. And he praised Western things. So let's see what are the main aims of this minute. This minute promote Oriental learning, which means Indian learning with a Western point of view, with Western language. And secondly, the aim of education was inclined towards the British policy. Here, Britishers don't want to get developed the Indian educated class, but they want to just create in a society or a class in the Indian society where every person easily absorb their policies and willingly follow their policies. So that the aim of education was at that time period was not for the development of the Indians. Now the agencies of education. Now firstly, at this minute, the question was raised that the Indian education system was run either by the government or by the indigenous system. So it was in a big responsibility. So direct responsibility was taken by whom was firstly decided through this minute. Let's move further. Missionaries. In this minute, in all shores of India, we should be made open to the missionaries of all parts of the world, or to form a new missionaries, or to all to not at all. So all these controversies are created in this minute. Lord Macaulay wrote in his minute that he must at present do our best to form the classes of a person of Indian blood and color and English in taste, opinion in words and intellect. So he wanted to create in a society which tastes like an English person or think like an English person but work like an Indian. So Macaulay argues in favor of English. He rejects all the languages like Arabic and Sanskrit because he considered that English was better than either of them, and he argues in favor of English. He said that English is the key of modern language, therefore it is more useful than Sanskrit, and English is the language for ruling class, and it is likely to become a language of commerce throughout the seas of the East, and it would bring the Renaissance in India just like it bring Renaissance in the Greek countries. So he considered and he gave more importance to the British thoughts and British languages. And apart from this minute, he wrote one theory for education, which is called a downward filtration theory of education, which will we take in the next video. Thank you for watching. Keep on watching. Thank you.